Om Shuklambaradharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om. Dear friends, we are seeing a tough shloka in the Bhagavad Gita, as I said. That is the 16th shloka of 2nd Adhyaya, 2-16. That is, Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah. So there, yesterday I explained to you what is the meaning of reality. What is the meaning of what is called existence or sat. In Sanskrit, the meaning of sat is existence or reality. And now we come to the next shloka, that is 17th shloka. Again he says, Lord Krishna is continuing, because from shlokas 11, Ashocyananvashocastvam, that was shloka number 11. From shloka number 11 to roughly 24 or so, Ashocyananvashocastvam, from shloka number 11 to about 24, he is telling about what is Jiva, what is the nature of this Atma. Atma means the self, what in English we say self. Sometimes some people they translate it as soul, but soul is not the right translation, because soul has got different meanings in other religions, and people may have different opinion. So it is better to translate this Atma as self, because Atma, literally it means Atma, self only it means. So let us see the next shloka. The next shloka again is talking about the same Jiva. It is saying that Jiva is somebody who is Avinashi. Avinashi means where there is no Nasha, where there is no end. Again, this in follow-up of what we saw in the earlier shloka. That is, I will read the shloka. Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam vinasham avyayasyasya na kaschit kartumarhati. So it says, Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvamidam tatam. So he is talking about some entity which is pervading the entire universe. He is talking about some entity which is pervading the entire universe. When we say that, when we listen to that, we think, okay, it is talking about God. But what Krishna is saying, he is not talking about God. He is talking about the human being. He is talking about what is called Atma. And what is the size of this Atma? There is again a very interesting discussion in all this in Vedanta. That is, we know that in India, in Indian philosophy, there are so many schools of thoughts. If that Atma is in a human body, it is the size of a human being. If it is in the body of a slender man like me, it is this size only. If it is in the body of a huge man, some pahilwan, some sumo wrestler, the Atma is of that size. If it is in the body of an elephant, the Atma is of the size of an elephant. So that is what some people said, like Jainas, etc. Some people said, no, this Atma is very atomic in size, Anuparimana. Anuparimana is atomic in sizes. And some people said, no, it is something which is all-pervading, it has to be all-pervading. But again, individually it is different. Though it is all-pervading, your Atma is different, my Atma is different. So what Vedanta, what the Upanishads say is that Atma is something which is one and the same like the sunlight. Just as Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshuhu, Upanishad says, Kathopanishad says, the same Surya with his light, he is illumining everything in the universe. So similarly, the one consciousness which is there, it is reflecting in all these so-called antahkaranas, all these antahkaranas which are there. And consciousness is not something which is born in the antahkarana. It is something which is reflected in all the antahkaranas, starting from an ant to right up to a dinosaur or an elephant. So that is what Upanishads say. So here, tad vidhi, when he is saying that, you know that this jiva is avinashi. He is not talking about, when he says that this is the whole universe is pervaded by this, he is not talking about Brahma, he is talking about jiva. Because this Atma is the same as that supreme reality. In fact, all these shlokas, they are saying, they are actually using the same adjectives. Avinashi, Ajam, Amaram. So all these words, what do they mean? Originless, deathless, etc. All these words which are used for Brahma or supreme reality are being used for the Jiva. So that means, indirectly it is saying that the Jiva is not different from that supreme reality or what we call Brahman. So avinashi tu tadvidhi, vinasha. Vinasha means something, what is that vinasha? Vinasha means destruction. I was explaining to you yesterday that consciousness is something which is neither born, it is not going to die. It is something avinashi. There is no vinasha. Avinashitu tadvidhi yena sarvam idam tatam. The whole thing is pervaded by that. The whole thing, the whole universe is pervaded. Idam tatam. Tatam means vyaptam. It is so pervaded. In fact, one more point also the commentators point out here. Suppose God wants to create the universe. Like a potter wants to create a pot. When a potter wants to create a pot, what happens? He goes and takes some clay, and he beats the clay into a nice pulp, and then he puts it on a potter's wheel, makes it into a nice shape, and all that. So the clay is what is called the material cause, and the man, the potter, is what is called the instrumental cause or nimitta karanam. So here it is upadana karanam. The clay is the upadana karanam. Clay, upadanam is something which is material, the material which is from which he is making that pot. In the case of universe, suppose you apply it to God. Apply it to God, suppose the God wants to create this whole universe. Where is this whole material from? You see, already taking some material which is available there somewhere in the space. All these logicians, they say, we have got one school of philosophy called logicians. They say that all these atoms were loosely there, and all these atoms were brought together, and then this whole universe is fabricated. So that is what they say. Atoms were there, and when all these things were fabricated, and intelligence also is born in them. So that is what they say. So this material cause, suppose we say that material cause is something which is different from the maker. Who is the maker? The God, let us say. He is the instrumental cause. If this material is something different from the maker, then what is the position of the maker? This maker himself is a small man. The maker himself is a limited man, a delimited man. He may be very, very powerful, all powerful and whatnot. But he is delimited. He is not that entire infinity. He cannot be called that infinity or ananta. So, what is the solution then? Then that same, whatever is that one entity, it is the same upadana karana, it is also the nimitta karana. That is, it is also the instrumental cause, it is also the material cause. So that means, is he taking out some portion of his and making it? No, it is not like that. Because if God is niravayava, or God is not a person we know, if that conscious entity is something which is niravayavi, that is something which is not having limbs like us, whatever is having limbs, it is something which is limited. Whatever is unlimited, there are no limbs to that. So God is what is called niravayavi, or limb. There cannot be any parts in that. So it is called abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Both, though this upadana karanam and nimitta karanam are one and the same, they are one and the same. Then what does it mean? So the reality in that consciousness, all this jagat is something which is appearing. All this jagat is a phenomena. In fact, this is something phenomenology. If you just go to websites like scienceandnonduality.com, you go to websites like scienceandnonduality.com, you find articles about what are called phenomenology. This phenomenology is something what Vedanta says. Vedanta says that what this universe which is appearing, it has got a tentative reality. It has got an empirical reality. It is not absolutely real. So that is what it says. And that is exactly what modern physics also says. And this is something which is surprising. What rishis did is the same as the present day mathematicians are doing. Mathematicians or scientists do. What the scientists they do, they are called the thought experiments. There is a word for that. That is thought experiment. Thought experiment, for example, Einstein is there. Einstein is a man who did not work in a laboratory. What all thinking he did and what all calculations he did were basically it is in his own mind, with his own mind and mental thinking only. So even the rishis, when they said this absolute reality is what it is of the nature of consciousness, it is of the nature of sat. This is something which is a great formula. When they defined that supreme reality is what is called satyam, jnanam and anantam. It is of the nature of infinitely existing consciousness. It is a very, very great formula it is given to humanity. So it is again a great thought experiment by all these scientists who are the Upanishadic sages. We should not think that these Upanishadic sages were some old hags pulling their beards and whatnot. They were great thinkers. They were very great thinkers. And in fact, if you see Western philosophy, you just read the comparative philosophy. For suppose you go to writers like Radhakrishnan or any other writer. For example, Swami Ramatirtha, if you see Ramatirtha, what he writes is, if you see the Western philosophy and Indian philosophy, the difference is that The Indian philosophers, they debated on the nature of consciousness right from the beginning. And in the Western philosophy, there was only one philosopher in olden days. That again is Greek philosophy. When that Greek philosophy was destroyed and all the destroyed in the sense that then Greek civilization was run over, isn't it? So when that Greek civilization was run over, rediscovered sometime in the time of Renaissance, it was basically rediscovery. So they again brought to light people like Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, and all those people. So Plato in Western world, he was the only man who talked about mind, who talked about what is called consciousness. It is called cave theory. Okay, Plato, he has got a theory of cave. If you just go to internet and look into that, it is somewhat similar to our Vedanta. Probably at that time, Socrates or Plato, they were exposed to Vedantic thought, we do not know. But Plato was the only man who talked about that. And right down to 18th century, they did not talk about the internal world, they only talked about the external world. This is something which you can see as a student of philosophy. So here, when we say that yena sarvamidam tatam, all pervading thing, that all pervading thing is something which is also the nimitta karanam and also the upadana karanam, and it is a phenomena. And vinasham avyayasyasya nakaschit kartumarhati. And nobody can destroy this, nobody can cause its vinasham. And he is now we have to remind ourselves that God, Krishna is not talking about God. Krishna is talking about Jiva. Krishna is talking about what you and me are. Then the next shloka is also like that, the 18th shloka. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinah anashino aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. Antavanta ime dehaha. Ime dehaha, all these bodies are antavantaha. They have an end. They do have an end. Deha is having an end. And nityasya ukta sharirinaha. Nityasya sharirinaha. So he is talking about one shariri. That means some entity which is having all these shariras. One who has a sharira is a shariri. For this shariri, there are so many bodies, which means that there is only one Atma which is illumining all the bodies, which is illumining the antahkaranas or the intellects of all the beings. So this is the basic principle in Vedanta we have to see. That is, there is no separate soul for a soul or Atma for a ant. There is no separate Atma for a mosquito. There is no separate Atma for another thing. The same consciousness is illumining the intellect of all these things. So that is what we have to see. So ime nityasya sharirinaha, ime dehaha antavantaha. There is only one shariri, that is one Atma, but there are so many dehas, there are so many bodies. The bodies may die, but this Atma doesn't die. Then anashinaha aprameyasya, and again some more adjectives for that. That is anashi, same thing as avinashi. Aprameya, aprameya is again another technical word. Pramanam is a valid means of knowledge is called pramanam. Suppose an object in front of me. In order to see this object in front of me, my eye is the pramana. My eye is the pramana or the means of valid knowledge in order to know in order to see this. And if I want to listen to something, my ear is the pramana. If I want to taste something, my tongue is the pramana. If I want to smell something, my nose is the pramana. Nose means sense of smell, sense of touch, sense of taste. So this sense is the pramana. So this is the pramana, and whatever is known by the pramana is called prameyam. Prameyam is anything which can be objectified, anything which can be seen, anything which can be known by the mind is what is called prameya. And aprameya means something which cannot be known by the mind and senses. Something which is beyond the mind and senses is what is called aprameya. So this Atma is something which is beyond the senses and beyond the mind. Why? Because that consciousness is the only thing which is enabling this mind to function. So it is like a programmer. You are the programmer, and the computer cannot know you. You know the computer, you run the program, and then the program is not running you. So it is like that. So anashinaha aprameyasya. So this is something which is beyond. This is that is the thing which is illumining this intelligence. So aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. So therefore, O Bharata yudhyasva. Yudhyasva means you have to fight. So again, here again there is a commentary. Surprisingly, by Shankaracharya at that time, Shankaracharya, you know that he belonged to some 8th century. So Shankaracharya at that time he writes, Nahi atra yuddha kartavyata vidhiyate, he says. Because we have got modern, all types of modern intellectuals, they say, okay, Arjuna wanted peace, Arjuna wanted to just give up that fight and he wanted to just live in peace, whereas Krishna prompted him to fight, etc., etc. So there, and many people think like that. And in fact, some people have gone to the extent of saying that Bhagavad Gita is promoting war. And you might recollect that in Russia, some people went to court, filing a case in the court that Bhagavad Gita is a war-mongering book, it has to be withdrawn, it should be prohibited. So that was some organization backed by some religious groups. Then again, somehow the case did not, there was no discussion on the reality or what is there in the Gita, etc. But somehow, by some political manipulation or whatever it is, by some diplomatic means, the case was withdrawn. It was unfortunate. It could have been discussed what exactly Gita says. It could have been discussed in the court also. So here, Tasmad Yudhyasva, when he says, Shankaracharya says, Nahi atra yuddha kartavyata vidhiyate, he says. That is, Krishna is not prompting, he is not provoking Arjuna to do war. What then? What then? Because Arjuna himself had come prepared for the war. Arjuna himself requested Krishna to be the charioteer. So suddenly he has come to some sort of grief. So what Lord Krishna is doing is only kartavya pratibandha apanayana matram bhagavata kriyate. The commentator writes, kartavya pratibandha, kartavya means duty, pratibandha means some sort of mental block. Apanayana, to remove that mental block. God is merely trying to remove the mental block. So that is what he writes. Lord Krishna, he is not prompting, because Arjuna himself came forward. In fact, Krishna tried for peace. Krishna went as a messenger, peace messenger. And after all that, the peace didn't take place. Then there is absolutely no other way. Now it is the duty, it is the kartavya. So for that kartavya, there is a pratibandha, there is an obstacle, a mental block. And what Krishna is doing is to remove that mental block. So that is what, wonderful words, kartavya, pratibandha, apanayana matram, bhagavata kriyate. So this is what we have to see. Tasmad yudhyasva bharata. So that is one point which we have to see here. Then we come to the next shloka. Next shloka also he is saying about the same nature of Atma, about how Atma is something which cannot be killed, etc. And this 19th and 20, these shlokas are actually almost a repetition of two mantras from the Kathopanishad. There is one Upanishad called Kathopanishad. That Kathopanishad again is a very interesting Upanishad. Kathopanishad, it seems, it was very, very popular in olden days. So, in fact, if we have seen the picture made by one G.V.S. Iyer, there was one filmmaker named G.V.S. Iyer. He has produced a movie in Sanskrit, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya. If you go to YouTube and type, search for that film Adi Shankaracharya by G.V.S. Iyer, you will get that whole film. It is in black and white, produced some 30 years ago. And it is a nice movie where it starts with this Kathopanishad. Kathopanishad is enacted in a village in that is Shankaracharya's village, that is Kaladi. So that means it is not as though G.V.S. Iyer has done that. It is mentioned in Panini's Ashtadhyayi also. Panini's Ashtadhyayi, not Panini's Ashtadhyayi, the commentary on Panini's Ashtadhyayi. That is what we call Mahabhashyam. In that Mahabhashyam, Kathakam cha Kalapakam cha Grame Grame. That is, Kathakam is something which is there in every village. This Kathopanishad was so popular that Yamadharmaraja, there is one truth seeker, a particular boy who wants to know what is that absolute reality. So he, under some peculiar circumstances, he goes to Yamaloka, and then Yamaloka, that Lord Yama is the person who gives Brahmagyana. So he has a discussion with that Yama. So all that thing we see. So these two shlokas, 19th and 20th, they are actually taken from that Kathopanishad only. Just slight rephrasing of words here and there, slight rephrasing. So there, here again, mantras again, what is there earlier, what is Kathopanishad, what is there earlier, it comes later here. So, yayenam vetti hantaram, yaschainam manyate hatam, ubhautau na vijanito, nayam hanti na hanyate. This is the shloka. So where he says, these two shlokas, ya enam vetti hantaram, a person who thinks that this Atma is something which is going to kill, or somebody who thinks that this Atma is going to be killed, both are, they are ignorant. Why? We will see in the next episode. Harihi Om Tat Sat.